Have you ever felt like someone was watching you? Not just glancing, but studying your very soul? That's exactly what happened to Selina, a broke waitress drowning in debt the night he walked in. He was the kind of man who owned the room, dangerous, wealthy, and terrifyingly silent. But it wasn't his power that stopped Selina in her tracks. It was the fragile, disabled boy in the wheelchair beside him. When a cruel customer attacked the boy, Selina did the one thing nobody else dared to do. She fought back. She didn't know the man watching from the shadows wasn't just a father. He was a vampire king, and that single act of kindness, it was about to cost her everything she knew, and give her a life she never imagined. This is the story of the waitress and the vampire king. The rain in Seattle didn't just fall, it hammered against the glass of Joe's all-night diner like it was trying to break in. Inside, the air smelled of stale grease, burnt coffee, and despair. Selina Miller wiped the counter for the 50th time that hour. Her wrist ached. She was 24, but tonight she felt 80. The neon sign outside buzzed with a dying flicker, casting a sickly pink light over her pale, exhausted face. In her pocket, her phone buzzed. She didn't need to look to know what it was. Another notification from the bank. Insufficient funds. "Selina, table 4 needs a refill, and stop daydreaming or I'll dock your tips," Rick, the manager, barked from the pass-through window. Rick was a man made entirely of sweat and anger. "On it, Rick," Selina said, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands. She grabbed the coffee pot and navigated the narrow aisles. It was 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. The diner was mostly empty, save for a trucker asleep in the back booth and a group of rowdy college kids in the front. But then, the bell above the door chimed. The temperature in the diner seemed to drop 10 degrees instantly. Selina looked up. Standing in the doorway was a man who looked like he had walked off the cover of a billionaire lifestyle magazine, but darker. Much darker. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than the diner itself. His hair was jet black, slicked back, revealing a face of sharp, aristocratic angles and eyes that were an unsettling shade of icy blue. But it was who he was with that caught Selina's attention. He was pushing a high-tech, customized wheelchair. In it sat a boy, no older than 7. The child was frail, his skin almost translucent, with dark circles under his eyes. He wore noise-cancelling headphones and was clutching a worn-out plush wolf, his head lolled slightly to the side, his motor control clearly limited. The man, Sebastian Vane, didn't wait to be seated. He moved with a liquid grace, gliding toward a secluded booth in the corner, away from the windows. Selina approached them, notepad in hand. Up close, the man's presence was suffocating. He smelled of rain, expensive cologne, and something metallic, like copper. "Welcome to Joe's," Selina said, forcing a smile. "Can I get you started with water, room temperature?" "No ice," Sebastian said. His voice was a low rumble that vibrated in Selina's chest. He didn't look at her. His eyes were laser-focused on the boy. "And a plate of sliced strawberries. Make sure they are washed thoroughly." "Of course," Selina said, writing it down. She looked at the boy. "And for the little guy? Does he want some crayons?" Sebastian finally looked up. His gaze was intense, assessing her as if she were a threat. "Luciano does not draw. He does not speak. Just the strawberries. Right. Coming right up." Selina hurried to the kitchen. "Who's that?" Rick hissed, peeking through the window. "He looks like he owns a funeral home." "He's a customer, Rick. Leave him alone," Selina warned. She prepared the order with care, picking the freshest strawberries she could find. When she returned to the table, she saw trouble brewing. The rowdy college kids from the front booth were leaving, and they were drunk. One of them, a guy wearing a varsity jacket, stumbled as he passed Sebastian's table. He tripped over the wheel of Luciano's chair. "Watch where you're parking that thing, cripple," the college kid shouted, regaining his balance. Luciano flinched violently. A low, pained whimper escaped his throat. He began to rock back and forth, hitting his head against the backrest of his chair. Sebastian stood up. It wasn't a fast movement, but it was terrifying. He unfolded to his full height, towering over the college kid. The air in the diner grew heavy with static. "Apologize," Sebastian said. It wasn't a request. "Screw you, buddy," the kid slurred, shoving Sebastian's chest. It was like shoving a marble statue. Sebastian didn't move an inch. His hand twitched, his fingers curling into a claw. Selina saw the look in his eyes. It was feral, a predator about to tear a throat out. Without thinking, Selina threw herself between them. "Hey!" she shouted. Not at Sebastian, but at the college kid. She slammed the tray onto a nearby table, shattering the tension. "Get out, now! You're drunk, you're rude, and you're scaring the child. Get out before I call the cops." The college kid looked at Selina, then at the stone-cold face of Sebastian, and decided he liked his odds better outside. "Whatever, freaks," he muttered, stumbling out the door with his friends. Selina turned immediately to Luciano. The boy was hyperventilating, his small hands clawing at his ears. Sebastian looked ready to murder someone, his breathing shallow, his eyes flashing a momentary, terrifying red that Selina assumed was a reflection of the neon sign. "He's having a sensory overload," Selina said softly. She ignored the terrifying father and crouched down to Luciano's eye level. "Don't touch him," Sebastian warned, his voice a low growl. "I'm not going to touch him," Selina whispered. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small, blinking LED keychain light she used to find keyholes in the dark. She turned it on. The light pulsed slowly. Blue, then green, then blue. She held it up, just within Luciano's line of sight, keeping her distance. "Look at the light, Luciano. Just the light. Breathe with the blue." She mimicked deep, slow breaths, in and out. Miraculously, Luciano's eyes locked onto the rhythm of the light. The rocking slowed, his hands unclenched. After a long minute, his breathing matched Selina's. Selina smiled gently. "There you go, buddy. You're safe." She stood up and turned to Sebastian. She expected a thank you. Instead, she found him staring at her with an expression of utter shock, mixed with a deep, hungry curiosity. "How did you do that?" he asked. "My younger brother," Selina said, her voice tight with an old grief. He was like Luciano. Non-verbal, sensory processing disorder. The lights helped ground him. "Was?" Sebastian picked up on the word. "He passed away 3 years ago," Selina said, looking down. "I'll go get those strawberries." She walked away, trembling. She didn't see Sebastian Vane watch her go, his eyes narrowing, the red tint fading back to ice blue. He pulled a sleek black phone from his pocket and typed a single message. "I found her." The next night, Selina's life fell apart. She arrived at the diner 5 minutes late because the bus broke down. Rick was waiting at the door, arms crossed. "You're done, Miller," he spat. "What? Rick, it's 5 minutes." "It's not the time. It's the attitude. You chased off paying customers last night. Those college kids are regulars. That guy in the suit? Never seen him before. Never saw him again. You're bad for business." "I was protecting a disabled child," Selina cried, rain soaking her uniform. "Hand in your apron," Rick said, closing the door in her face. Selina stood in the pouring rain, the neon sign buzzing above her. She had $42 in her bank account. Rent was due in 2 days. She had no family, no degree, and now, no job. She walked the 6 blocks to her tiny, mold-infested studio apartment in a daze. She sat on her sagging mattress, staring at the wall, wondering if this was it, if this was the moment she finally drowned. Knock, knock, knock. 3 heavy, precise raps on her door. Selina frowned. Nobody visited her. She wiped her eyes and walked to the door, keeping the chain on. She opened it a crack. Standing in her hallway wasn't a landlord or a debt collector. It was a man in a black chauffeur's uniform. He was huge, with a shaved head and a scar running down his cheek. "Miss Selina Miller." "Yes?" Selina's heart hammered. "Mr. Vane requests your presence." "Who?" "The gentleman from the diner. The father of the boy you helped." Selina hesitated. "Look, I appreciate it, but I just got fired because of that little incident, and I'm really not in the mood for—" "He knows," the chauffeur interrupted. He held up an envelope. "He intends to compensate you for your lost employment, and to discuss a job opportunity." Selina looked at the envelope. It was thick. "I'm not getting in a car with a stranger," she said firmly. "The car is downstairs. You can check the license plate. You can call the police if you wish. Mr. Vane is a very private, very wealthy man. He does not kidnap waitresses. He hires them." Selina looked around her apartment. The water stain on the ceiling looked like a grimace. She took the envelope through the crack. She opened it. Inside was $5,000 in cash. Selina gasped. That was 3 months of rent. "10 minutes, Miss Miller," the chauffeur said, and walked away. Selina got in the car. It was a Rolls-Royce, the interior smelling of leather and mahogany. The drive took them out of the city, winding up into the dense, forested hills of the Pacific Northwest. The city lights faded, replaced by towering pines and swirling mist. They arrived at a gate that looked like it belonged in a history book. Iron bars twisted into shapes of thorns and roses. The gate groaned open, and the car drove up a long, winding driveway to a house that defied description. It wasn't a house, it was a fortress. Stone walls, Gothic arches, and high towers that seemed to pierce the moonlit clouds. Blackwood Estate. Inside, the house was silent as a tomb. The chauffeur led her to a massive library where a fire roared in the hearth. Sebastian Vane stood by the window, holding a glass of dark, red liquid. He turned as she entered. Without the harsh diner lighting, he was even more striking, devastatingly handsome, but with a pallor that made him look like a marble statue brought to life. "Miss Miller," he said, "thank you for coming." "You sent me $5,000, Selina said, clutching her purse. "I think I had to come. Please sit." He gestured to a velvet armchair. "I will be brief. I saw how you handled my son, Luciano, last night. I have employed 17 nannies in the last 2 years. None of them lasted a month. Most lasted a week." "Why?" Selina asked. "Because Luciano is difficult. His condition is complex. He requires a specific diet, specific medication, and absolute protection from sunlight due to a rare genetic photosensitivity." Sebastian took a sip of his drink, but mostly they leave because they are afraid of him. "Afraid of a little boy?" Selina frowned. "That's awful. Luciano has outbursts, fits of strength that shouldn't be possible for his size, night terrors, and he's cold, emotionally. He does not connect with people." Sebastian's eyes bored into hers. "But he connected with you. He followed your breathing. He hasn't looked at a stranger without screaming in 3 years. "Oh," Selina softened. "He just needed to feel safe." "Exactly. And I need someone who can make him feel safe. I am a busy man, Miss Miller. My business interests require me to travel at night, frequently. I need a live-in caregiver." Sebastian placed a contract on the table. "The salary is $10,000 a month, room and board included, full medical benefits." Selina's jaw dropped. 10,000 a month? "There are rules," Sebastian said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming serious. 1, you never take Luciano outside the estate walls. 2, you never open the curtains during the day. 3, you never enter the west wing of the house, specifically the basement levels. And 4, he leaned in closer. Selina could see the flecks of silver in his blue eyes. You never ask questions about his medication or his diet. You simply administer it. Selina looked at the contract. It was a lifeline. It was a fortune. But the rules sent a shiver down her spine. The West Wing? The diet? It sounded like the beginning of a horror movie. But then she thought of Luciano, the terrified little boy in the wheelchair. He was lonely. He was misunderstood, just like her brother had been. "I have a condition too," Selina said, surprising herself with her boldness. Sebastian raised an eyebrow. "Oh? I'm not just a babysitter. If I do this, I do it my way. No more just parking him in a corner with headphones. I want to try therapy. I want to try to get him to communicate. If you want me to just be a guard dog, hire security. If you want a caregiver, you get me." Sebastian stared at her for a long, agonizing moment. Then the corner of his mouth twitched upward, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, but softened the hardness of his face. "Agreed," he said. Selina picked up the pen. She signed her name. "Welcome to Blackwood, Selina," Sebastian said. "Your life as you know it is over." He didn't know how right he was. As Selena was escorted to a room, a suite larger than her entire apartment building, she didn't see Sebastian turn back to the window. He watched the moon, his face twisting in pain. "She has no idea, does she?" A voice came from the shadows. A man stepped out. He was tall, thin, with spectacles. This was Dr. Aris, the family physician. "No," Sebastian said, "and she must not find out. Not until the boy is strong enough." "She smells appetizing, Sebastian," Dr. Aris noted dryly. "Are you sure you can control yourself? It has been a century since you allowed a human to live this close to the source." Sebastian griped the wine glass so hard the stem shattered, slicing his hand. He didn't bleed. The wound knitted itself together in seconds. "She is not food, Aris," Sebastian growled. "She is the only chance my son has to keep his humanity. If anything happens to her, I will burn this world to ash." The first week at Blackwood Estate was a lesson in isolation. The mansion was a labyrinth of mahogany corridors, velvet drapes, and dust motes dancing in the dim light of chandeliers. It was always twilight inside. The windows were treated with a heavy UV-blocking tint, and heavy curtains were drawn until sunset. Selena barely saw Sebastian. He slept during the day. Business calls with overseas markets. The housekeeper, a stern woman named Mrs. Higgins, had explained, and left in his sleek car as soon as the sun went down. Her world was Luciano. Luciano's room was filled with expensive toys that had never been touched. He spent his days in his wheelchair, staring blankly at a large aquarium, filled with pale, blind cave fish. "Hey, Luciano," Selena said on her third day, bringing in a tray. "Lunchtime." The lunch was a thick, dark red smoothie that smelled of iron and pomegranates. It came from the kitchen in a sealed thermos prepared by Dr. Aris. Selena had tried to ask Mrs. Higgins what was in it, but the housekeeper had just glared and said, "Iron supplements for his anemia." Selena poured it into a sippy cup. Luciano drank it ravenously. It was the only time he showed energy. "Okay, pal," Selena said, wiping his mouth. "We're not watching fish today. We're going to try something." She pulled out a bag she had brought. Inside was kinetic sand. "It's soft," she said, placing a tray of the purple sand on his lap. "Touch it." Luciano stared at it. His hands were pale, his fingernails slightly pointed and unusually sharp. He didn't move. "It's okay," Selena soothed. She took his hand. His skin was ice cold. Not just cool, dead cold. She suppressed a shiver. Circulation issues, she told herself. Just circulation issues. She guided his hand into the sand. Luciano flinched, then paused. The texture seemed to intrigue him. He dug his fingers in. Then he looked at Selena. For the first time, his eyes focused on her face. His eyes were the same blue as his father's, but the pupils were dilated, swallowing the iris. "See?" Selena smiled. "Feels good." Luciano opened his mouth. A rasping sound came out. "So..." Selena froze. "Selena? Are you trying to say Selena? So... pfft." He was trying. He was actually trying. Suddenly Luciano stiffened. His back arched off the chair. A guttural growl ripped from his throat, sounding more like a wild animal than a 7-year-old boy. "Luciano!" Selena grabbed his shoulders. "Luciano, look at me! Look at the light!" She fumbled for her keychain, but Luciano swatted it away with terrifying force. The small plastic light hit the wall and shattered. Luciano gripped the armrests of his wheelchair. The metal bent. Selena watched in horror as the steel tubing crumpled under the grip of a 7-year-old boy, like it was aluminum foil. "Hungry!" Luciano shrieked. It wasn't a child's voice. It was distorted, layered. "Hungry!" The door burst open. It wasn't Sebastian. It was Dr. Aris. He moved with impossible speed, crossing the room in a blur. He held a syringe gun. Thwip! He injected Luciano in the neck. Luciano slumped instantly, unconscious. Selena was backed against the wall, hyperventilating. She looked at the twisted metal of the wheelchair. She looked at the doctor. "What? What is he?" she whispered. Dr. Aris adjusted his glasses. He looked at Selena with a mix of pity and annoyance. "He is a very sick boy, Miss Miller. He had a seizure. The adrenaline spikes give him temporary hysterical strength. It is a side effect of his condition. Hysterical strength? He bent steel, Doctor. He growled. Adrenaline is a powerful thing, Aris said smoothly. He lifted Luciano effortlessly, as if the boy weighed nothing. I will take him to the medical wing. You are dismissed for the evening. I'm not leaving him. You will, a voice came from the hallway. Sebastian stood there. He was wearing a long black coat, fresh from the outdoors. He looked furious. But the fury wasn't directed at Selina. It was directed at his son. No, at the situation. Go to your room, Selina, Sebastian said, his voice leaving no room for argument. Luciano needs treatment that you cannot provide. Selina looked between the two men. She looked at the unconscious boy. She wanted to run. Every instinct in her body screamed that this was wrong, that this place was dangerous. But then she saw Luciano's hand dangling from the doctor's arms. It was reaching out toward where she was standing. He needs me. I'll go, Selina said, her voice shaking. But we are talking about this tomorrow. No more secrets, Mr. Vane. Or I walk. Sebastian looked at her, surprised by her defiance. Tomorrow, he agreed. Selina went to her room, but she didn't sleep. She waited until the grandfather clock in the hall struck 2 a.m. The house was silent. She crept out of her room. Rule number 3, never enter the West Wing. If they were hiding medical records, that's where they would be. Selina needed to know if Luciano was being abused or if he was part of some experiment. She moved through the shadows, avoiding the creaky floorboards. She reached the heavy oak door of the West Wing. It was locked. She pulled a bobby pin from her hair. Her brother used to lock himself in the bathroom, and she had learned to pick cheap locks. This was an expensive lock, but it was old. The mechanism was simple. Click, the door swung open. A draft of cold, earthy air hit her. It smelled like a cellar. Selina turned on her phone's flashlight and descended the stone stairs. The basement wasn't a medical facility. It looked like a dungeon. There were cells with iron bars, but they were empty. At the end of the hall was a heavy steel door, slightly ajar. Selina crept toward it. She heard voices. The suppression serum isn't working anymore, Sebastian. Doctor, Aris's voice echoed. His human half is too weak to contain the vampire blood. It's killing him. He needs to feed. Properly. No, Sebastian's voice. I will not turn him into a monster. He is her son. She died to give him a human life. He is not human, Sebastian. He is a dampire, a hybrid, and he is unstable. If he doesn't feed on fresh blood, human blood, soon his body will consume itself. Or worse, he will lose control and slaughter everyone in this house. Selina clamped a hand over her mouth. She backed away, her heart pounding so hard she thought they would hear it. Vampire, hybrid, human blood. She turned to run, but in her panic, she bumped into a small table. A metal tray clattered to the floor. The voices stopped instantly. Selina, Sebastian's voice came from the room, not loud, but clear. I know you're there. Selina scrambled up the stairs. She didn't care about stealth anymore. She needed to get out. She needed to get to her car. She burst through the West Wing door and sprinted into the main hall. She made it to the front door. She grabbed the handle. It was locked. She turned around. Sebastian was standing at the top of the grand staircase. He wasn't running. He was just there. His eyes were glowing a vibrant, luminescent red in the dark. His fangs, long, sharp, and terrifyingly real, were extended. Please, Selina begged, backing up against the door. I won't say anything. Just let me go. Sebastian glided down the stairs. He didn't walk. He flowed like smoke. He stopped inches from her. He didn't look angry. He looked sad. I can't let you leave, Selina, he said softly. Not now that you know. He reached out a hand. Selina flinched, closing her eyes, expecting death. Instead, his cold hand cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear. Because, he whispered, Luciano has chosen you. And for the first time in 100 years, I think I have too. Selina didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her massive 4-poster bed, watching the sun come up through the heavy velvet curtains she was forbidden to open. Her suitcase was packed, sitting by the door, but she knew it was useless. The gates were locked. The guards were not human. She was a prisoner in a castle of monsters. But she kept thinking about Luciano, the way he had looked at the sand, the way he had tried to say her name. He's just a boy, she told herself, a boy dying because his father is too proud, or too scared, to help him. At noon, a knock came at the door. It was Sebastian. He didn't wait for permission. He entered, carrying a tray of food himself. Toast, eggs, coffee. He looked exhausted, his pale skin almost grey. He placed the tray on the table and stood at a respectful distance. "You didn't eat breakfast," he said. "I'm not hungry," Selina replied, her voice cold. "I want to go home." "I cannot allow that. Not yet. You know our secret, Selina. If you leave, Vernon will find you, and he will use you to get to Luciano." "Who is Vernon?" Sebastian sighed, rubbing his temples. He sat down in the chair opposite her. For a moment, the terrifying vampire king was gone, replaced by a weary father. "We are not the only clan in Washington," Sebastian explained. "There is an old law. Vampires are forbidden from procreating. We are dead. We cannot create life. It is an abomination against nature." "But Luciano?" "Luciano is a miracle," Sebastian said softly. "His mother, Catherine, was human. She was everything to me. We tried for years. When she fell pregnant, the council demanded I terminate the pregnancy. They said the child would be a soulless beast. I refused." Sebastian looked at his hands. Catherine didn't survive the birth. Her human body couldn't handle the baby's strength. She died in my arms. He looked up, his eyes burning with intensity. I promised her I would raise him as a human, that I would suppress his vampire side. But I failed. The nature is too strong. Selina felt her fear ebbing away, replaced by a pang of sympathy. "So Dr. Aris, he's trying to keep him human? He is trying to keep him alive, but the serum is failing. Luciano is starving, Selina. His body craves blood. If he doesn't feed, he will die. If he does feed, the council, led by Vernon Draven, will sense his awakening. They will come here, and they will kill him." Selina stood up. She paced the room. It was a nightmare, a trap, but looking at Sebastian, she realized something. He wasn't keeping her here to eat her. He was keeping her here because he was desperate. "Why me?" Selina asked. "Why did you bring me here? Why not just hire a nurse from the vampire world?" "Because vampires have no patience for weakness," Sebastian said bitterly. "And because you smell different." Selina hugged herself. "Excuse me?" Sebastian stood and took a step toward her. He stopped inches away. "Your blood. It sings. It's rare. In our history, we call it the anchor. It has a calming property. It's why Luciano stopped screaming when you looked at him. Your very presence soothes the beast inside him. You are a natural sedative to our kind." He reached out, his fingers hovering over her shoulder. "I don't just need a nanny, Selina. I need an anchor. Stay. Please. Help me save my son. If you can teach him to control his emotions, to connect with his human side, maybe he won't need to feed. Maybe he can live." Selina looked into his eyes. They were pleading. "I have conditions," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Anything. I want full access to the house. No more locked doors. I want to know everything Dr. Aris is doing. And if we save him, if he stabilizes, you let me go, with a nice severance package and a memory wipe or whatever you do." Sebastian hesitated, a flicker of pain crossing his face at the thought of her leaving. "Agreed." "Okay," Selina whispered. "Take me to him." Underscore. 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 The next 2 weeks were a blur of progress and terror. Selina threw herself into her work. She wasn't just a caregiver anymore. She was Luciano's lifeline. She spent hours with him, using music therapy, tactile play, and soft reading. She found that Luciano loved the sound of the cello. When she played recordings of Bach, his tremors ceased entirely. Sebastian was always there, watching from the shadows. One rainy afternoon, Selina was in the library with Luciano. She was reading Peter Pan aloud. Luciano was sitting on the rug, not in his chair. This was a huge step. Sebastian walked in. He had been out hunting, sourcing animal blood, and he looked invigorated. He leaned against the doorframe, listening to Selina's voice. "You have a lovely reading voice," he commented. Selina blushed. "My dad used to read to me." "Luciano likes the hook," Sebastian noted, nodding at the book. "He likes the idea of a boy who never grows up. Perhaps he fears he never will." "He will," Selina said fiercely. "He gained 2 pounds this week. He smiled yesterday, Sebastian. A real smile." Sebastian walked over. He sat on the rug beside them, his long legs stretching out. It was such a domestic scene, the vampire, the waitress, and the hybrid son, that it felt surreal. "You have done the impossible," Sebastian murmured. He looked at Selina, his gaze dropping to her lips, then to the pulse beating in her neck. Selina's breath hitched. The attraction between them was becoming a physical weight. It was dangerous. He was a predator, but he was also the most devoted father she had ever seen. "Sebastian," she warned softly. "I know," he whispered. "I am dangerous, Selina. You should fear me." "I do," she admitted. "But I also trust you." Sebastian reached out and took her hand. His skin was cold, but it sent a shock of heat through her arm. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, his eyes never leaving hers. "I would burn for 1,000 years before I let any harm come to you," he vowed. Suddenly the moment shattered. Luciano let out a high-pitched scream. He clutched his stomach, curling into a ball. "Luciano!" Selina scrambled to him. "It's starting," Sebastian said, his face paling. "The hunger pangs." Luciano's eyes rolled back. His veins turned black against his pale skin. He thrashed, knocking over a heavy oak table. "Get Dr. Aris," Selina yelled. "Aris is in the city," Sebastian growled. He tried to hold Luciano down, but the boy was incredibly strong. "Luciano, fight it! Look at Selina! Look at the anchor!" Luciano looked at her, but there was no recognition in his eyes, only a deep, red hunger. He snarled, baring fangs that were too big for his small mouth. "Blood!" Luciano hissed. "Blood!" And then the alarms went off. A piercing siren wailed through the estate. Red lights flashed. Sebastian froze. He sniffed the air. His expression shifted from concern to pure, unadulterated rage. "They found us," he snarled. "Who?" Selina cried, holding the thrashing boy. "The council. Vernon is here." The front doors of Blackwood Estate didn't just open. They exploded. Wood and iron turned to shrapnel, raining down on the marble foyer. Selina screamed, shielding Luciano's body with her own in the library. "Stay here," Sebastian commanded. His voice had changed. It was deeper, distorted. His skin was turning a slate grey, his fingernails elongating into razor-sharp talons. "Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me." "Sebastian, don't go," Selina begged. "I have to buy you time. Take Luciano to the safe room in the cellar. Go." Sebastian blurred out of the room. Selina heard the sounds of violence instantly. The wet tear of flesh, the crunch of bone, and inhuman roaring. She grabbed Luciano's wheelchair. "Come on, Luciano, we have to move." Luciano was semi-conscious, groaning in pain. Selina hoisted him into the chair. She didn't go to the cellar. The cellar was a dead end. She remembered the floor plans she had found in the library. There was a servant's tunnel in the kitchen that led to the garage. She sprinted through the hallways, pushing the heavy chair. The house was a war zone. Through the windows, she saw them. Dozens of figures in dark tactical gear moving across the lawn. They weren't human. They moved too fast, leaping over the 10-foot walls. In the foyer, she saw Sebastian. He was a blur of violence. He held a massive sword, an antique from the wall, and was fighting 3 vampires at once. He moved like water, ducking under claws and severing heads with brutal efficiency. But there were too many of them. One of the attackers, a brute with a shaved head, saw Selina. "The boy!" The vampire shouted, "Target acquired!" Sebastian turned, distracted. "No!" A spear flew through the air, catching Sebastian in the shoulder. He roared, pinning him to the wall. "Run, Selina!" he bellowed. Selina didn't look back. She slammed through the kitchen doors. She found the servant's hatch and kicked it open. "Get in, Luciano, get in!" She lowered the wheelchair down the ramp. They were in the damp tunnel. She ran, her lungs burning. They emerged in the garage, where the Rolls-Royce and a few other cars were parked. Well, not the escape I would have chosen. Selina spun around. Standing by the garage door was a man in a pristine white suit. He held a cane topped with a silver skull. He had pale blonde hair and a smile that made Selina's blood freeze. "Vernon Draven. You must be the nanny," Vernon purred. He tapped his cane on the concrete. "And that is the mistake." He pointed the cane at Luciano. "Leave him alone!" Selina shouted. She grabbed a tire iron from a workbench. Vernon laughed. "Oh, adorable. The human thinks she can fight." He moved. He was faster than Sebastian. 1 second he was by the door. The next he had Selina by the throat, lifting her off the ground. Selina gagged, kicking her legs. "You smell delicious," Vernon noted, sniffing her neck. "I see why Sebastian kept you. A pet? A snack? Let her go." The voice came from the wheelchair. Vernon turned. Luciano was sitting up. His eyes were glowing brighter than Selina had ever seen. The air in the garage began to vibrate. Tools on the shelves started to rattle. "The abomination speaks," Vernon sneered. He threw Selina across the room. She hit the wall hard, her head cracking against the concrete. Blood trickled down her forehead. "Selina!" Luciano screamed. Seeing Selina bleed triggered something in the boy. Luciano didn't just stand up. He floated. A dark, purple energy swirled around him. The wheelchair exploded outward. "What is this?" Vernon took a step back, his confidence faltering. "Get away from her!" Luciano shrieked. He thrust his hand forward. An invisible force slammed into Vernon like a freight train. The vampire lord was blasted backward, smashing through the garage door and out into the rain. Luciano fell to the ground, exhausted. Selina crawled over to him, her vision blurry. Luciano, are you okay?" Luciano was shivering violently. His skin was grey. He was gasping for air. "Hungry," he wheezed. "Selina, it hurts." Selina looked at his arm. The veins were black, creeping up toward his heart. The magic he had used had drained the last of his energy. He was dying right in front of her. No, Selina cried. "Don't you dare die on me." "Blood," Luciano whispered. His eyes locked onto the cut on Selina's forehead. Selina froze. She understood. The animal blood wasn't working. The synthetic serum had failed. He needed human blood. He needed source blood. If she didn't do it, he would die. If she did do it, he might kill her. The sounds of fighting were getting closer. Sebastian was still trapped inside. Vernon was recovering outside. Selina made a choice. She pulled the sleeve of her uniform up, exposing her wrist. She grabbed a shard of glass from the broken door. "Luciano," she said, her voice shaking. "Drink." She sliced her wrist. The scent of her blood hit the air instantly. It was sweet, heavy, and intoxicating. Even Selina felt dizzy from the smell. Luciano's eyes went wide. He tried to pull away. "No, Selina. Friend. It's okay," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. She pressed her bleeding wrist to his mouth. "Save yourself, Luciano. Do it." Luciano's resistance broke. He latched onto her wrist. Selina screamed as his fangs pierced her skin, but then something impossible happened. As Luciano drank, he didn't turn into a monster. He started to glow. A soft, golden light radiated from his skin, pushing back the shadows of the garage. The black veins receded. His skin turned rosy and healthy, and Selina, she didn't feel weak. She felt a surge of connection. She could feel Luciano's emotions, his fear, his gratitude, his love for her. Outside, Vernon stood up, brushing off his suit. He looked into the garage and saw the golden light. "Impossible," Vernon whispered. "The golden blood. She's a royal source." Sebastian burst into the garage, covered in black ichor. clutching his wounded shoulder. He stopped dead in his tracks. He saw his son, glowing with power. He saw Selina, feeding him, her eyes shining with the same golden hue. Luciano released Selina's wrist. The wound on her arm healed instantly, leaving only a faint silver scar. Luciano stood up. He looked strong. He looked powerful. And for the first time, he looked fully in control. "Dad," Luciano said, his voice clear and strong. "I think we need to teach the bad man a lesson." Sebastian looked at Selina with awe. You just awakened the king." The garage at Blackwood Estate was no longer a place of grease and oil. It was a battlefield illuminated by the blinding golden aura radiating from Luciano Vane. Vernon Draven, the cruel leader of the council, wiped a streak of violet blood from his lip. He looked at the 7-year-old boy floating inches off the ground, and for the first time in centuries, he felt fear. "Kill them!" Vernon shrieked to his remaining soldiers. "Kill the abomination! Capture the girl!" 3 vampires in tactical gear lunged forward. They moved faster than the human eye could track, their claws aiming for Selina. "No," Luciano said. It wasn't a shout. It was a command that resonated in the bones of everyone present. Luciano clenched his fist. The 3 attackers stopped in midair, as if caught in invisible amber. Luciano flicked his wrist to the right. The vampires were flung violently across the garage, smashing through the brick wall and into the rainy night. He's a telekinetic," Sebastian breathed, clutching his bleeding shoulder. He looked at Selina. The golden blood didn't just heal him, Selina. It evolved him. It unlocked the ancient genes that we thought were lost to history. Selina felt dizzy. The cut on her wrist had healed, but she felt a strange, humming connection to Luciano. She could feel his heartbeat syncing with hers. "Selina!" Sebastian said urgently, moving to shield her. "Stay behind me. Vernon is desperate. He will try to—" Before Sebastian could finish, Vernon moved. He didn't attack Luciano. He knew he couldn't win that fight. He attacked the weak link. He threw a smoke bomb, a mixture of magnesium and white ash, that blinded them instantly. In the confusion, a cold hand clamped over Selina's mouth. "I'll take this to go," Vernon's voice hissed in her ear. "Selina!" Sebastian roared, slashing blindly into the smoke. But it was too late. Selina felt the lurch of teleportation, a sickening sensation of being squeezed through a straw. The garage, the golden light, and Sebastian's desperate face vanished. She slammed onto a hard, polished marble floor. She gasped for air, looking around. She was in a penthouse. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the Seattle skyline. She was miles away from Blackwood. Vernon stood over her, adjusting his white suit. He looked manic. "Do you know what you are, my dear?" Vernon asked, pouring himself a drink. "You aren't just a waitress with a sob story. You are a sanguis aurea, a golden blood, a genetic anomaly that appears once every 1,000 years." Selina scrambled backward until her back hit a sofa. "Let me go. Sebastian will come for me." "Sebastian is a sentimental fool," Vernon spat. "He wanted to play house with his human pet. I have a different vision. Your blood. If I drain you dry, I won't just be a council leader. I will be a god. I will walk in the sun." He lunged at her. Selina grabbed a heavy crystal vase from the table and smashed it over his head. It shattered, but Vernon didn't even flinch. He grabbed her hair, yanking her head back, exposing her throat. "Don't worry," he whispered, his fangs extending. "It will only hurt for a second." Crash! The penthouse window didn't break. It disintegrated. A figure flew in from the night sky, carried on wings of pure shadow. It was Sebastian, but he looked different. His eyes were no longer blue or red. They were gold, reflecting the connection he now shared with his son and Selina. "Get your hands off her," Sebastian said. The voice was so low, so dangerous, that the glass in the room began to crack. "How did you find us?" Vernon snarled, releasing Selina. "She is part of my clan now." Sebastian walked forward, smoke rising from his shoulders. "I can hear her heart from across the world." Vernon laughed nervously. "You can't kill me, Sebastian. I am the High Seat. If you kill me, the entire vampire nation will hunt you down." "I'm not going to kill you," Sebastian said, stopping to help Selina up. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her tight against his chest. I'm going to let him do it. Vernon frowned. Him? The elevator doors at the end of the hall dinged open. Luciano rolled out in his wheelchair. He looked calm. He looked like a king. You hurt my mum, Luciano said. Selina's heart stopped. Mum. Vernon backed away. Now, boy, let's be reasonable. Luciano didn't speak. He just looked at Vernon. The gravity in the room shifted. Vernon fell to his knees, pinned by an invisible weight. The floor beneath him began to crack. I decree, Luciano said, his voice echoing with a power far beyond his years, that you are exiled. You will never harm a child again, and you will never touch her again. Luciano raised his hand. Vernon screamed as he was lifted into the air and thrown through the broken window, out into the stormy night, tumbling down 40 stories into the dark bay below. Silence fell over the penthouse. Selina looked at Sebastian. Then she looked at Luciano. Did you kill him? She whispered. No, Sebastian said, looking at his son with pride. Vampires survive falls, but the humiliation, that will kill him. He is finished. The council will not follow a leader who was thrown out a window by a 7-year-old. Luciano rolled his chair over to them. He looked tired, the golden glow fading, leaving him just a sleepy little boy again. Selina? Luciano asked, rubbing his eyes. Can we go home now? I want strawberries. Selina burst into tears. She fell to her knees and hugged the boy, burying her face in his small shoulder. Yes, baby, we can go home. Sebastian knelt beside them, wrapping his large arms around both of them. For the first time in a century, the Vampire King cried. 3 months later, the morning sun filtered through the curtains of the master bedroom at Blackwood Estate, but this time the curtains weren't drawn shut. They were wide open. Selina woke up, shielding her eyes against the light. She stretched, feeling the silk sheets against her skin. Good morning, a voice rumbled from the balcony. Sebastian was standing there, leaning against the railing. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, casual clothes she had forced him to buy. He was in the shade of the overhang, but his hand was resting in a patch of sunlight. His skin smoked slightly, but it didn't burn. Showing off, Selina teased, walking over to him. Dr. Aris says it's a side effect of the bond. Sebastian smiled, pulling her into a kiss. Your blood didn't just cure Luciano. Living with you, sharing this space. It's making me resistant. I can watch the sunrise with you, Selina. For a few minutes at least. Selina rested her head on his chest. How is he? Go see for yourself. Selina looked down into the garden. The high walls were still there, but the gloomy atmosphere was gone. The garden was full of flowers, roses, tulips, sunflowers, and running through the grass, actually running, was Luciano. He was chasing a golden retriever puppy they had adopted. He stumbled, laughed, and got back up. No wheelchair, no helmet. He was wearing sunglasses to protect his sensitive eyes, but he was out in the day. Dr. Aris sat on a bench nearby, taking notes and looking smugly satisfied. He's a day walker, Sebastian said softly. The first of his kind. A bridge between the night and the day. And you are the reason he exists. Sebastian turned Selina around. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring. It wasn't a diamond. It was a dark, swirling stone set in ancient silver, a moonstone from the old world. Selina Miller, Sebastian said, his eyes intense and vulnerable. When I met you, I was a ghost haunting my own house. I was waiting to die. You didn't just save my son. You saved me. You are the heartbeat of this family. Will you marry us? Will you be the Queen of Blackwood? Selina looked at the ring, then at the man who had terrified her, then intrigued her, and finally, loved her. She looked down at the garden where Luciano was waving up at them. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times. Sebastian slid the ring onto her finger. He picked her up and spun her around, his laughter echoing off the stone walls. That evening, they didn't dine in the dark. They had a barbecue in the backyard. Rick, the manager from the diner, who had apologized profusely after Sebastian bought the diner and gave it to Selina as a signing bonus, was there manning the grill. The chauffeur was throwing a frisbee for the dog as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Selina sat on the grass with Luciano on her lap and Sebastian's arm around her shoulders. "Selina," Luciano asked, sleepily. "Yeah, buddy? Are we monsters?" Selina kissed the top of his head. "No, Luciano. Monsters are people who hurt others. Monsters are people who don't love. We aren't monsters." She looked at Sebastian, whose vampire eyes were glowing with warmth in the twilight. "We're a family," she said. And for the waitress who once had $42 in her bank account and no future, that was the greatest wealth in the world. And that is how Selina Miller went from pouring coffee in a rainy diner to ruling a supernatural empire. She taught us that true power isn't about fangs, or money, or immortality. It's about the courage to stand between the darkness and the innocent. It's about love so fierce it can literally change the blood in your veins. Sebastian and Selina proved that family isn't always who you're born with. It's who you bleed for. Luciano is now growing up strong, bridging the gap between humans and vampires, ensuring a peace that will last for generations. If you enjoyed this story of romance, danger, and redemption, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss a story. What would you do if a vampire king offered you a job? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay spooky.